Well, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the intermediate capabilities with Excel. Businesses routinely track large amounts of information, such as customer mailing lists, phone lists, product inventories, sales transactions. So there's 5 areas in this technology review that are intermediate Excel capabilities, and they are list, conditional formatting, auto filtering, subtotals, and pivot tables. So a list is a collection of rows and columns of consistently formatted data, adhering to somewhat stricter rules than an ordinary worksheet. When you create a list, keep in mind the following. You have a fixed number of columns or categories of information. Use each column to hold the same type of information. Don't leave blank rows or columns in the list area, and make your list the only information in the worksheet so Excel can more easily recognize the data as a list. And then maintain your data's integrity by entering identical information consistently. So let's take a look at a list. I'll switch over to our Excel worksheet that we've been working on. So now we see this is the same list we were doing with the introductory aspects of Excel. So again, to create a list, just create a column heading for each field in the list. You can format it in bold type and adjust the alignment. Format the cells below the column headings for the data you plan to use, and then add new rows, which is your data, below the column headings. And again, don't skip any rows in that process. So once your records are organized into a list, you can sort rows and columns in that list. To sort a list, what you would do is place your cursor in the list, and then we'll expand the selection, and we'll come over and sort, let's say, by state. And now I've got it sorted by state. Let's do it again. Again, I put my cursor anywhere in the list. Then I come up, and in my data tab, one of the options is sort and filter. Click the sort icon, and it brings up a dialog box, and I can choose how I want to sort the list. So I'll choose age this time, and then it's going to go smallest to largest in terms of age. So, and you have the option of making it ascending or descending and so on. Now you can also sort based on 2 or 3 columns. So again, I'll put my cursor in the list, and let's sort by name, and then we'll add a level, and then within name we'll sort by age from smallest to largest. And now we see when we have the 2 Jeffs, one is at 1 year old, the other at 63, so they are sorted in that order. So we can also create a custom sort order if we want to. And to do that, we follow these steps. So again, we go to sort, and I'll delete that level. And then if I come over to the order column in the dialog box, you'll see something called custom list. And in this one, I can create a set of entries. Let me delete this. And I'll create a set of entries, and we'll say West Virginia, comma, Virginia, comma, Maryland, and add that in to our list that we can sort by. And then click OK. And then click OK, and now it's sorted by that particular option. Oh, I'm going to sort state by those values, and there we go. So West Virginia, Virginia, and Maryland. So that's a custom sort capability. Okay, let's go back to our lecture. And I'll share this one. So we did lists and sorting. Now let's take a look at conditional formatting. Excel gives you the ability to add conditional formatting. And that's formatting that automatically adjusts depending on the contents of the cells in your worksheet. This means you can highlight important trends in your data. To create a conditional format, we have to do the following steps. Okay, so let's go ahead and I've switched over. I'll switch over to the worksheet and we'll start using that. Okay, so here's our list again, and we'll do some conditional formatting on the age column. So I'll go ahead and select the age column, and I'll come to Home, Styles, Conditional Formatting, and I'll just do something like a simple greater than rule, and we'll say if the age is greater than, let's say, 30, we'll highlight it. And so now I've done some conditional formatting. For the age column, anytime an age is greater than 30, then it's going to highlight it. So that's something that brings attention to conditions that you're interested in the worksheet. Okay, and I'll go ahead and switch back. Okay, and we've done that. So now let's look at auto filtering with Excel. When you want to hide all the records or rows in your list except those that meet certain criteria, you can use the auto filter command on the filter submenu of the data menu. The auto filter command places a drop-down list at the top of each column in your list or row heading. So let's see how we do this. I'll go ahead and switch back to our list of interest, and then we'll go ahead. Okay, there we are. So again, to use a list, I just place my cursor somewhere in that list. It's contiguous. There's no breaks in rows or columns. I'll go up to Data, then I go over to Filter, and you'll notice that it's now given me some filters that I can use to select things, records. So let's go over to State, for example, and I will deselect all, and I'll say I just want to see the people in West Virginia. So now I only see the people in West Virginia. And then I can make it just the people in Virginia and so on. So makes it easy. Then I can go back and select everybody, and now we're back where we were. So makes it easy for us to start looking and analyzing our data and filtering records out and seeing what kind of trends we might see with certain subsets of our data. And again, it's very easy to create a filter. Just place your cursor in the list, come up to Data and the Data tab, and then under Sort and Filter, select the filter icon, and you have a filter capability that you can turn on and off, in fact. Okay, let's switch back, continue on. Okay, so we did auto filter. Subtotals command helps us organize and analyze a list by displaying records in groups and inserting summary information such as subtotals, averages, maximum or minimum values. The subtotals command can also display a grand total at the top or bottom of your list, letting you quickly add up columns of numbers. So let's see how we can do this. We'll go back to our list, the same one we've been using, and we'll do some subtotaling on it. So here we are back, and let's say we want to do subtotals by state, and then we will look at getting average age for each state. So we'll go ahead and select the state, the list. So we put our cursor in our list anywhere. It doesn't have to be in the state column. It can be anywhere in the list. Then we'll come over and go to outline, and then we'll click subtotal in outline, and we'll click for each change in state, we want to average age, and click OK. And now we have the subtotaling done, and we applied the average function for the subtotal function that we want to do. And we see in Maryland, the average age is 15.5. In Virginia, it's 50. And in West Virginia, it's 34. And the overall average is 35. So subtotaling, again, lets us get some insights into our data. Okay, let's go back to our lecture. So we did the subtotaling, and the final thing that we'll look at in intermediate Excel functionality is the pivot table. And a pivot table lets us do much more sophisticated subtotaling than the subtotal command. So with a pivot table, we're doing subtotals by a variety of different dimensions. So the pivot table function is a powerful built-in data analysis feature in Excel. And a pivot table analyzes, summarizes, and manipulates data in large lists, in databases, in worksheets, and other collections. It's called a pivot table because the fields can be moved within the table to create different types of summaries, providing what's known as a pivot. So some of the terms in a pivot table are the row field, and that's the fields for the row orientation in the table. A column field is the fields for the column orientation in the table. These are dimensions that we're going to subtotal by. The data field is the field we're going to do our summary functions on, be it a sum, a count, an average, a min, a max, or whatever. So this is the data field that we're going to be analyzing by the dimensions we put in the row and column. We're going to do subtotals on it. There's also a page field which allows us to do a third dimension, but obviously in a two-dimensional structure like Excel, we are not going to have it as part of the table. What it does is it changes the values in the table as we change its particular selection. So I'm going to use a different worksheet that has a little bit more data for us to look at pivoting. So let's take a look at that. I'll share over here. Okay, so this is our new data. And what we have is sales of magazines by sales rep and region and month. And we have the sale amount as well. So to do a pivot table on this list, as we have been doing, we just put our cursor anywhere in the list. And then I'll go up to Insert, Tables, Pivot Table. And it selects the entire range of the list for me. That's the nice thing about working with lists. And I'll put it in a new worksheet. Makes it a little bit easier to deal with. So here's my pivot table fields. So let's say that I want, obviously, sales to be the data. So I'm going to drag this down to the values. Let's say region, I want a subtotal in the column. And let's say magazine, I want a subtotal in the rows. And let's say month is going to be my third dimensional filter. And you'll notice as I built this, it went ahead and built a pivot table for me. So it gives me subtotals of each magazine by region. So I've sold 2,600 copies of Business Times in the East region. And I've sold 17,000 overall copies of the Business Times for all months. I can then come up here and just select a particular month, and then I get much smaller subtotals, and select this month, and then go back to all. I can also do things besides the sum of the subtotals. I can get, say, an average. So the average of my overall of sales for each one is going to be noted here. I can get counts as well. So we can go to count and select a count. How many people have sold Business Times. And then I can go back to sum. I can also do things like get, and to do these, I just come down to values and select the down arrow, go over to value field settings, and I can show values as, say, a percentage of column total. So in the East region, which is my column, 11% of my sales are Business Times, 24% is IT Weekly, and 24% is People. Whereas in the South, 39% is Business Times and only 7% is People. So a very powerful tool. Pivot tables, again, let you calculate subtotals by a cross-section of various dimensions of interest, like magazine type and is one dimension here, region type is another dimension, and then the intersection of these, like Business Times East, dollars and cents West, and all the intersections, you subtotal up, and you can get a variety of different functions that you can apply to them. So I'll go back to just our sum, and we get the sum of sales for each one. So again, this is a very powerful tool and is used quite often in business analytics. Okay, so next we'll get into some of the advanced capabilities in Excel. So we'll go ahead and do that next, but we're also going to do a problem with pivot tables as well.